So, what we do know from the video, and this is factual, that Officer Nyantaki observed crimes being committed in his presence. The shooting incident occurred in the area of the exit ramp of I-95 and 64 West. That Mr. Peters did demonstrate bizarre and irrational behavior. That Mr. Peters at no time during this encounter respond to any of the officers or acknowledge the officer's presence or verbal commands until he stood up in the roadway. That the officer deployed his taser after giving a warning that he would deploy, which appeared to have had no effect on Mr. Peters. The officer did discharge his firearm, striking Mr. Peters twice in his abdomen. That resulted in Mr. Peters' death.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out here. My name is Princess Blandon, sister of Marcus Davis Lamar Peters. I am extremely appalled that Chief Durham attempted to defend the actions of the officer who killed my brother, Marcus David Peters. Marcus needed help, not death. The body camera footage released by Richmond Police Department today confirmed what I already knew. Marcus was unarmed, clearly in distress and in need of help, and instead of receiving help, he received 2 fatal bullets. Marcus was clearly unarmed. The only deadly threat in this situation was the fully armed Richmond police officer that shot and killed my brother. Regardless of what preceded, the only reason he is dead is because of the decision of that officer. Nothing justifies Marcus not being here. He will never get the opportunity to tell his side of the story. Again, Marcus needed help, not death. The footage answered some of my questions and spurred hundreds more. For instance, once the officer verbally acknowledged that Marcus was mentally unstable, why did he proceed to engage Marcus? Who within the Richmond Police Department had access to the body camera footage prior to us seeing it 10 days after the incident? After Marcus was shot twice and on the ground, why did the officer that used deadly force advise the state patrol officer to prepare to use deadly force again if necessary when there was a total of 7 officers on the scene surrounding Marcus? Furthermore, this entire situation really has me wondering, who are police trained to help? Who are they serving and protecting? Themselves? According to Richmond Police Department spokesman Jean LePlay, the officer attempted to use a taser on Marcus and it failed. However, what I saw in the footage is that the taser never fully made contact with Marcus, which means the officer failed. The officer failed to execute all of his options. He failed to exhaust all of his options before choosing to kill my brother. He failed to protect my brother. He failed the city of Richmond. He failed our community when he decided to act as a judge, jury, and executioner on the spot. Chief Durham fails us when he speaks as if this officer's actions were reasonable. Tried to justify the shooting and killing of a man who was undressed and unarmed. They were looking to render aid, is what he said, and that's what they did. Chief Durham's version of rendering aid rendered death. No matter how much he would like the press conference to position his officer as reasonable, those actions were not reasonable. If those actions are part of the policies and procedures, they are plainly wrong. The police officer had the opportunity to use pepper spray, hand-to-hand combat, but he chose deadly forces. Richmond Police Department is not being transparent as Chief Durham promised that he would. The 9-minute long footage is still not the complete body camera footage. It shuts off after he was told by the trooper to put his gun up. I would like to see the footage that comes after that. After they shot my brother, they drug him by his arms after they considered using deadly forces again. As a black person, how do we know if we are in need of help that it will not result in death? Why is it that we are risking our lives when we interact with the police? It's wrong and it's a tragedy, and something has to change. Again, there is nothing, and I say nothing, that Chief Durham can say to change my mind. Marcus needed help. He did not need, nor did he deserve death. I will continue to fight for justice for my brother, and I hope the community joins me in this fight. Please understand that I will not back down. We will continue to fight for justice, accountability, and reformation. We are asking the public, everyone, community members, churchgoers, artists, everyone to raise their voices for my brother, for our family, and for countless other families who have suffered this needless fate. Please join us from 2 to 4 p.m. tomorrow at this church. We will mobilize and make plans for the following Saturday, where we will come together and make sure that we are heard and begin to transform things to make sure that this preventable, senseless death does not happen again. Thank you.